Yay, it's happening. We're recording. I really appreciate you guys hopping on. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to come here and support the team and be a part of it. You know, one of the most important things about being a coach in this community is showing up. So I really appreciate that. Can you guys hear me okay? Is the volume good? Yeah? Okay, perfect. Awesome. So I'm going to start with, before I was a coach, I had a lot of different jobs. Most of them were like reception type jobs. I had a lot of jobs where I was overworked and underpaid. I never really felt like I belonged anywhere. I would get hounded all the time by my husband, my mom, my dad. What are you doing with your life? What are you doing with your life? You know, that daunting question, to where it got so uncomfortable for me because I just didn't know. Because I like would pursue, I went to college, I'm like nervous. It's just you guys. I went to college for a semester because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. So I went to pursue like my career or whatever, you know, that was supposed to be the right thing. And nothing stuck out to me. I did general ed and I just felt like it just out of place, you know, even though, you know, I've always excelled in school. I've always been smart. I've always had good jobs. It just, nothing was really doing it for me. You know, I wanted more and I just didn't know why. I didn't know where, how. I just always felt really kind of like blah. And I grew up in a town surrounded by, you know, kind of the same people that I'd always been around. So I really didn't know anything different than like partying and drinking, and that's just that. And so anytime I was dealing with anything, or if I was upset, I would just drink it away. I would just, you know, go party, and that was just my life. It was a monotonous grind of going to work for someone else every single day, doing shit that I hated. You know, I was grateful for my jobs. They paid the bills, but I literally hated what I did. I would wake up and think, how can I get out of going to work today? Every single day. I would wake up and I would not be excited to wake up. I would dread it. I would dread every day. So I would go to work and I would numb myself with caffeine all day, like Monster energy drinks, like freaking crazy, because I was just so like bleh, and I'd stay up all night to try to prolong going to work. Like, this is nuts to me. I would be like, the longer I stay up, like I don't go to bed and have to go to work sooner. Like, that's the way that my mind worked. And I would tell people, I wish I could just fast forward Monday through Friday. And if you calculate like Monday through Friday of every freaking week in a year, that is so much life. I just wanted to freaking erase or fast forward. Like, that's my life. And I wanted to like ignore it because I was so miserable, just in never really feeling fulfilled or like I could just, you know, belong anywhere. So I would go from job to job. I would learn the stuff and I'd be like, okay, cool, this is fun in the beginning, and then that would wear off and the newness and it would set in. I'm like, okay, this is my job. And then it got monotonous again. And I'd be like, oh, no, I'm bored. Like, what's next, right? So I'd look for the next thing. And then I'm going to fast forward again to when Cody got fired from a place that we were both working. We didn't know what to do. We were like, now what? Because he was like the sole provider, which really bothered me because I felt like I never really contributed much to our household. And for me, like, I was always pretty independent, but not being able to really carry the bills when something like that happened, like, was really, it was kind of like, it just, I don't know, kicking the non-existent balls, I suppose. Like, I can't even support our household. So he was like, well, I'm going to take this job out of town because it pays really well as long as you're okay with it. And in my head, I'm like, well, this is our only option, right? And it's what he wanted to do. So I was like, sure, take this job out of town. It was 2.5 hours away. That meant that every Sunday he was leaving our house by noon because he had to beat traffic. So he'd leave our house by noon every Sunday and he'd be gone until super late Friday night. So sometimes he would come home Friday like super late because he came after work and it was like an 8 to 12 hour day. He was dead ass tired. He would come home. He would just be exhausted. It got to the point where we couldn't afford to live in our house anymore because he was commuting back and forth. I was commuting to see him back and forth. We were paying double rent, Whoa, it's fucking loud. Who was that? Okay, so we were paying double rent, double groceries, and we just couldn't afford the house anymore. The house was me. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-car garage house. Amy? There we go. Okay, it was a three-bedroom house, 2-car garage, like a big house just for me. And it was expensive, so we literally moved out half of the month. Like, I literally called up my friends, and I was like, hey, I know you guys are looking for a house. Do you want to move into this house? We can't afford it anymore. And that was, like, super embarrassing, right? So not only did I have to move out of my house because we just couldn't afford it anymore, I had to move back in with my parents. So this was before coaching. And I had found Beachbody on the internet, you know, like a total creep. I was watching them at Summit 2000. want to say it was 2014, like I was a creeper, like that person Googling, what are they doing today? What are they doing today? What are they doing today? Because I was really curious. And to be honest with you, I didn't know what it was about, but I felt a part of me like I wanted to be there. And I can't, like, I'm going to cry talking about it. I can't explain to you guys how I felt when I was watching like Amy Silverman on stage. I remember she had this red sparkly dress and her hair was like purple. And I was like, I feel like I need to be there and I have no idea why. I don't really know what they're doing. And I met my coach locally. Actually, it wasn't Colleen. It was not my coach. I met a coach. And she started talking to me about Beachbody and trying to just get me to join. And for quite a long time, I was like, I could never do that. You know, I don't like fitness. I'm not really into, like, I don't really know how to help people. And I just want to stress how important consistency and showing up is, because this girl that initially reached out to me was not consistent and she did not show up. And that is why she's not my coach today, because I stumbled upon Colleen, you know, just posting all the time in my face, answering all my questions. She just was always there, right? And she was always like supportive, but she never like really asked me to do anything. She was just like my friend. I had tendinitis and she reached out to me and gave me some tips about my elbow because she also related. She always reminds me that's how we met, because of my elbow injury. And so, excuse me. So when I found coaching, I was like, this is cool, but like I could never do that, right? And then obviously watching her post every single day, I learned like, wow, I guess I could. But my main reason for joining was because I was sick and tired of just waking up and wanting to fast forward my life. You know, I got to the point where for an entire year, I said no. I went out to the bars and I drank. I said, no, I don't have the money. I went out to the bars and I drank all the time, which is expensive. You guys know, even if you go out to eat, it's expensive. That adds up, right? I was shopping all the time because when Cody and I were separated, the only thing that really helped me, I guess, cope, it helped if you consider that helping, was drinking and shopping. And those were the two things I turned to. I didn't have the money to do either. I was using credit cards. I was, you know, racking up debt. Like on a credit card, I'm sitting here shopping, buying. Hi, Christina. First Zoom meeting for you. Is that what you just said? Good. Welcome. So I was racking up money on my credit card. I was racking up, you know, debt. I was getting heavier. I was getting more unhappy. You know, we were having problems to the point where our relationship was like meh. You know, like we weren't really sure, like, how can we do this long distance thing? Like we really weren't addressing any of our feelings about it. We would just be together and we'd fight all the time. And when I saw what coaching did for Colleen, her life, and others' lives like hers, I thought, okay, this could change my life if I do the shit. And I went to my husband. I remember this. One day we went to breakfast and I was like, hey, you know, I need to talk to you about something serious. This is really important to me. I want to do this. And I presented it to him because that's what I do. I collect all the information. I'm a huge skeptic. I don't just do anything. Like I have to completely like know what it's about and believe in it. So I sat him down for breakfast and I was like, hey, like we were out at a restaurant. I'm like, this is important to me. I want to do this. I know I can. You know, do you support me? And he basically said no. And I cried in that restaurant. I cried because it was like stabbed to my heart, you know, and he did not support me at all. You know, he did not want me to do this. My parents said this was a scam. Everyone I knew was like, Shakeology's crap. It's a bunch of fillers, which is like total bullshit, because if you read the ingredients, there's no fillers in it at all. But I didn't know the difference. I didn't know superfoods back then. I didn't know what anything was. So I believed people without actually like learning for myself. So that was also in that year that I kept saying no. And then one day my friend was like, hey, Kandace, I have the money. She's like, I have the money. Like I met this girl in Poshmark before anything. We were just like avid shoppers. Like we were shopaholics. That's how we became really good friends. She's like, I have the money. I'm PayPaling it to you right now. You're going to sign up and I know you'll pay me back within the next month or two because you're going to earn it back. And I was like, oh, F. You know, I don't have that excuse anymore because that was the one I was hanging on to so tight, even though it wasn't true. That was like my thing and nobody blamed me. I mean, I really didn't have a lot of money, but like I was just making really poor choices with what I did have. And so I messaged her and I was like, I'm ready. I'm ready. And I'd said that like, I don't know, probably like 20 other times. So she was probably like, yeah, right, cool. Like, you know how to do it. She's already probably explained it to me like 17 times already. I was that girl, the one that's like, hey, I want to do this. And then I'd be like, oh, my car broke down and I had to get new tires. Like I was that girl. So when you hear people giving you those excuses, just think like I was that girl, you know, and sometimes the excuses were legitimate, but most of the time it was just fear. I was scared. And it was especially hard because nobody supported me, you know, and if I say that now, it makes my family and my husband, you know, it makes them feel bad because obviously they're my biggest supporters now. and they didn't want to not support me because they thought, you know, I was a nut or whatever. They just didn't know what this was. So their lack of support was based on fear, and they didn't want to see me get hurt or fail or get taken advantage of or scammed or whatever, right? So it was legitimate. And my husband's like, we don't have the money. That's why he didn't want to support me. Plus it was change, and like dudes don't really like change. In my opinion, my husband never has. I have to introduce something to him like 17 times before he actually says yes to the idea, you know, to everything, like remodeling and changing my hair, pretty much everything. But so I just did it, and I didn't tell him. And I was like, I'm not going to like post this because I didn't even tell him. He doesn't even know yet. And Colleen was like, no, you have to share it right away. And I was like, ugh. So I messaged him and I was like, I did a thing. I was like, I signed up. Don't freak out. It wasn't with your money. So, or our money, you know, like you don't owe anything. I'm not in debt. Someone lent me the money and I'm going to pay them back because I'm going to earn it back. And he was like mad because he's like, we don't need another bill because we're already paying double rent, right? I was renting a room. He was renting a room, and we were in different people's houses, 2 grocery bills, 2 gas bills, like, and then I was shopping still on top of all of that. He was like, no. And I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm going to earn the money. You're not going to have to pay anything. As long as I help 3 people a month, it earns my money back. And it's like a wash basically. Right. And I did, I was hell bent on proving him wrong, you know, basically that's really what it was, because I was like, there's no way, like, I'm going to look stupid in front of him, right? Telling him like, you don't have to pay for anything. It's not coming out of your pocket. I'm going to earn it back. Plus, in my head, I was like so obsessed with this community. That's what drew me to Beachbody initially, because I felt like I actually belonged somewhere. And for the first time in my life, people embraced me like 100%. No one told me, you know, do this way, speak this way, dress this way, act this way. And I had been treated that way my entire life. So I never really knew my own identity. I'm always a strong woman and hard-headed and stuff, but I just had like all of this pent up energy and stuff, but I didn't know where to channel it. So I was always angry and I was always frustrated, and I always felt like an outcast, because through this opportunity, through personal growth, I've learned how strong of an introvert I am. And I always thought that was a really bad thing. And I thought I needed to drink to be me. And I thought I needed to drink to be more fun and drink to be more social. And that was really the thing I used, was alcohol, to like make myself more extroverted. And for the first time in my life, being a part of this community, everyone just embraced me. And they were just like, yeah, you're you, be you. And they'd be like, you know, do whatever you want. And for me, I was like, what? Like, you don't want me to do something a certain way? You don't want me to speak a certain way? Like, it just kind of blew my mind. I couldn't really wrap my head around the fact that people loved me 100% for me, even though, you know, my family was supportive in that sense. They loved me, but I always felt misunderstood. And I know that a lot of you on the team can relate, you know, because being an introvert really wasn't something that, it's not really encouraged. You know, that we live in a society where being extrovert is super encouraged. And if you're quiet or you're shy, you're instantly rude, or people would say I was a bitch just because I didn't say anything. And I'm like, wow, I can't just like sit here and think, or sit here and like take it all in. I have to have like this, you know, bubbly thing. And that was so not me. And I was always in jobs where I was forced to be that type of person. So I got really good at faking it. And aside from the community and being, you know, finally like accepted, which I don't know, I can't really explain how that felt, but it was something I'd never felt before. Yeah, people would say, you know, I saw Kandace at work today. She looks rude. She looks like a bitch. And my mom would be like, really? Like, okay. Right? Because like, why? Because I'm just not like super bubbly, you know, like that's just how I am. And I always felt really guilty about it. And whenever I would say something or chime into a conversation, people would look at me like I was a freaking retard, because I would say like some deep, profound thing that I've been thinking about for like 4 hours straight. And then I finally voice it and they're like, ooh, weirdo. So when I first, you know, started coaching and I got into these trainings where, you know, I met people like Janelle. I met Janelle in my first training, and we instantly clicked because she was kind of weird and I'm kind of weird. And I was like, oh, she's kind of cool, you know? And, you know, they've always encouraged me to be what I just feel like that's the most important part of this, is the community and the fact that we're loved and encouraged to be 100% ourselves. Like, I've never been more me than I am now, you know, and I'm still discovering who I am, because I spent pretty much a lifetime of suppressing who I was and not being me because I was embarrassed or it was wrong, or a job told me not to dress like this, or a job told me not to act or talk or speak. And with coaching, you know, you do whatever you want, you say whatever you want, and it's your choice. It's your business. So obviously my husband's my biggest supporter now. I remember the first time I actually made money from this opportunity, and it was only like $14. You know, that was like my first check. I think it was like $14.95 or something. I don't even know what that even came from, but I was stoked because I was like, look at this, Cody. Like, look, this is real. Like, this is money. We can spend this. This is money. And he was like, you know, and it took a few more of building and having, you know, better returns on, you know, when I'm helping people and stuff. And I think one of them was like 100. And I was like, this is gas. Like, this is gas money and groceries. Like, I couldn't afford that before. Like, I couldn't pay my bills half the time. I was negative, you know, things were always bouncing. Or we just had this, like, we would literally sit down, you guys, and look at our bills and say, all right, what are we not going to pay this month and what can wait until next month? Because that's the kind of situation we had gotten ourselves in. And before coaching, I honestly didn't think I had a way. I honestly didn't think my life could be anything different, because all I've ever known is struggle. All I've ever known is a lack mindset. All I've ever known is that, you know, you get old, you get sick, you get overweight, you're unhappy, you hate your job, and then you die. That's literally all I've ever known. And in my head, that's all life was. You know, I remember waking up in my apartment one day and being like, is this it? Is this it? Like, you just wake up, you know, you feel like shit because I'm, you know, super sensitive, and I had no clue about digestion or eating or anything. So I was eating everything that was like super harmful to my body. So not only was I unhappy in my situation, I felt like shit, which made everything like a million trillion times worse, you know? Because if you feel like shit, you know, you're not happy, and no one can be happy with you. Like, I wasn't happy with my husband, just nothing. Everything sucked. Everything sucked. So I can honestly say, you know, with confidence that coaching has saved my relationship to my best friend. You know, Cody and I have not had an easy marriage, and this is it's really, you know, important to me. The personal growth that we do is it's not just for business. It's not just building a business. It's to make us happier and more aware and more in tune with who we are. And just that trickles down into every aspect of our life. Because if it wasn't for me embarking upon my personal growth journey and really learning who I am, I wouldn't be, you know, confident in who I am, because now I know I'm aware, and then be able to communicate that to other people. Like, this is why. And then I was able to pick things that I wanted to improve in our relationship. You know, we've always had kind of a bad communication because he's an extrovert and I'm an introvert. Never knew that before. Never knew what those words meant. So we would fight all the time because he would want me to go out partying with him. Some nights, you know, I wouldn't want to. I'd want to stay in and not do anything. And he'd call me, you know, things like a party pooper, or, you know, a buzzkill or whatever, antisocial, because I didn't want to go out. And it was really hard for me to explain to him that, because I didn't understand myself. And so it would cause, like, it seems silly, but it caused a huge fight. I don't know how many times I went in my room slamming the door because I wanted to be alone, and he had friends over, and we would like literally fight nonstop about it. He just didn't understand. I didn't understand why. I thought I was a psychopath, right? I thought I was just a bitch. So, you know, in the beginning of coaching, Cody and I were kind of going through a really hard time because that long distance marriage thing was really, really hard. And in one of my first trainings I ever did, Colleen told me to make a video, like a recorded video. Live wasn't even a thing. It was a recorded video. So I recorded myself probably like 17 times because I was so like self-conscious about my 3-minute video. I didn't even want to post it, but I was supposed to talk about my why and why I was here. So when I first started, I was like, man, like, I don't know. I just want to help people. And she's like, that's great. Like, everybody wants to help people. You know, that's why we're all here. That's what a coach does, is we help people. But like, what do you want out of this opportunity, Kandace? Like, what do you want it to do for you? Like, think bigger. And my little pea brain, I was like, what does thinking big mean? You know, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what that means, because I've never allowed myself to dream big or think big before. So she's like, what pisses you off about your current situation? And I was like, well, I don't live with my husband. You know, like, that sucks. That was like my epic, like, I want to change that. And she was like, you can change that. And I was like, yeah, right. That's funny, you know? And she was like, you can. You just have to stay the course, do the little shit, the four vital behaviors. three or four. 3, 4, 4. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, help. Lifeline. 4 vital behaviors. But back then it was 3. So you have to do those things every single day and share your journey, and you can change your life. And I was just like, this is insane. And so I made that 3-minute video, and I was like, I want to be a wife again. You know, I'm tired of being in a long distance relationship. I'm tired of not having a husband, because at that point, you guys, I really didn't. Cody was going out and drinking all the time because he was upset. Anytime we would spend the weekend together, we were fighting and bickering, and we literally got to the point where we hated each other. Like, it was almost not even worth me going down and seeing him and him seeing me, other than that's just what we did because we were married. I really don't think our marriage would have survived if it wasn't for the personal development tools, you know, the tools I've acquired from personal development and the support of this community. That alone has carried me through so much shit. I've gone through so much shit, you know, just as a coach, and I'm strong because of, you know, who I surround myself with and the healthy habits I've created. That's how I've been able to overcome, you know, I went through really pretty severe marriage struggles twice. You know, the first one was November of 2014 when I was a somewhat new coach. You know, Cody and I were talking about divorce because we didn't know what else to do. We were so miserable, and it was because of our jobs and the long distance. And, you know, it was on the table, and that makes me absolutely, you know, not disgusted, but we didn't know what else to do. And we decided we were just going to come in and we were going to do our best. And I can honestly say, if it wasn't for this community of, you know, supportive people and my team, you know, it was Dream Corp back then. Rising Lotus really didn't exist. We probably wouldn't have made it. And then the second marriage struggle we went through was more recently. You know, it was in June of 2016. And I can honestly say, again, you know, that was really tough. And I'm not going to get into the details, but you guys know how tough relationships can be. And, you know, again, we talked about divorce, and it was just, if I didn't have this community, you know, to fall back on to keep me strong when I was feeling weak, and the personal development tools, because, you know, I filled my brain with so much personal development during these times that it gave me the tools and the mindset to be able to look at the situation with new eyes. You know, I always say that I feel like becoming a coach really took the blindfolds. I feel like I was wearing a blindfold most of my life. I was just kind of going through the motions of life, thinking that I was really living, and I wasn't. I was just existing, and I was bitching about everything, but I wasn't willing to make any changes. That's just all I knew, you know, until I started kind of surrounding myself with different people. I never really knew there was any other way to be. I didn't know I could be more. I really thought I was worthless because I didn't go to college. I was in a lot of dead-end jobs where I couldn't advance, and they weren't fulfilling. They were boring. I went to work for someone else, and I pushed paper, and I inputted data into computers, and I got yelled at on the phone and customer service, and it sucked. And I really didn't know I could do anything more. Like, if you would have asked me back then if I would be someone that people look up to and say that I inspire them, like, I would have said you're pretty freaking crazy, because I really, like, it's sometimes hard to believe that that's even what I do now, because of, like, my life was so different just 3 years ago. And it's honestly because I believed, and I showed up, and I didn't stop even when it seemed like nothing was happening, because that's a lot of the time. You do a lot of work in this business for nothing in the beginning, like, not nothing, but you don't see a return on all of your work in the beginning. Like, those seemingly small actions that they talk about in the compound effect, like, you do them and you do them and you do them and you do them, and you're like, why is nothing happening? You know, it's normal, and it still happens to me now, but it's worth it. Absolutely. This opportunity has absolutely saved my marriage. It saved my health. It saved, you know, my life. Like, I live with my husband. I don't know if you guys know now. Well, obviously most of you do. We live in an RV, and we were able to do that because of coaching. And I want to stress the fact that I don't say that coaching bought me in an RV, because that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about finances. I'm talking about it changed my perspective on possibility. I became a possibility thinker, and I started seeing things with different eyes, like things that I could actually achieve if I put my mind to it. And we wanted to live in an RV because it was our only option with the dogs at that point. And everyone told us not to do it. Again, you know, people like to push their fears on you when they don't understand something because they don't want to see you get hurt. So everyone told us not to do it, and we did it anyways. And, you know, we're literally so glad we did. We're the happiest we've ever been. So, you know, without coaching, I don't think I would have had the balls to go against what everyone says. And I still do it to this day. You know, everyone tells me not to dye my hair red, you know, like everyone tells me don't do this, you know, because that's just how it is. You know, everyone wants to project their fears on us. And yeah, that's all she wrote. The dog's snuggling me. Look, you guys, how cute is that? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I feel like I haven't had a chance to really kind of share parts of my story with you guys. So I just wanted to kind of get that all out there again. I really, truly hope that when you hear people's stories and you hear how much people's lives have changed, that really gets you excited for the possibility of whatever you want. I hope that you don't hear stories, you know, of anyone, not just me, and think, oh, that's nice, but that could never happen for me, you know, because it's not true. It's not true. I spent a lot of my life thinking that I wasn't lucky. I said that all the time. I wish I was lucky, you know. I was never confident in who I was, and especially with my body. You know, I woke up every day and I looked in the mirror and I would do that thing that maybe some girls do, where you grab like parts of your body, you know, like fat or whatever, and you just mad at it, you know. And I didn't understand why I looked that way. I didn't understand why I couldn't be happy. My mom told me big thighs and, you know, flabby arms and all that stuff ran in our family. So I literally thought it was my destiny to be miserable, you know. So I hope that when you hear stories, you know, it really opens your eyes to possibility if you just do the work. I'm not going to sit here and say it wasn't hard. I busted my ass the first year to 2 years of my business because I did not want to do those jobs anymore. Once I learned that coaching could be my like thing, like I could do this full time and I could be my own boss and I could literally do whatever I wanted and work from anywhere. I was like, why the frick would I not do that? If I bust my ass for 3 years, you know, 2 or 3 years, and I have like this amazing opportunity to be my own boss, why would I not do that rather than grinding for someone else for 75 to just retire and then not have enough money to even freaking grocery shop? Because like I look at my parents and my grandparents and just everybody's like, they struggle so hard and they don't even like what they do at all. Like my parents still complain about their jobs and that just breaks my heart. Like I don't want to end up like that. And I looked at that and I was like, I'm breaking the cycle now, right? Like we have an amazing opportunity to change our own lives. And not only that, but we help people. We help people. That's how we change our lives. And so I hope that you are possibility thinkers now, because that literally shifted my entire mindset. Was like, me now, I know nothing is impossible. I just have to do the work. The old Kandace, nothing. I wasn't lucky. I couldn't do anything, you know, nothing. That was for the lucky ones. And those girls are skinny because they're lucky. And those people, you know, are happy because they're lucky. Like I literally, that was everything. That was my BS story that I was telling myself. I'm gonna read the chat. Did someone talk to me? She probably didn't need to. April said her and her husband are the same. He's extrovert. Yeah, it's hard when you don't know. It was extremely hard when I didn't know why my husband wanted me to go everywhere and he didn't know why I didn't want to. It was really awkward because we would just fight about it. And it's like, what's the point of that? You know, I would think he's not my person. I would think things like that because we didn't know that we were different. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to support me as I, you know, grow and share my story some more. And I don't know if you have anything that you want to say or anything, but we have like 8 minutes left. If you want to stare at me in silence for the next 8 minutes, that's cool too. That's okay. I don't mind, right? Just do it and make me uncomfortable, but it'll get me used to it for those awkward team calls where you're like, have any questions? And you're talking to someone else who's your guest speaker and it's like, right? So yeah, old Kandace would have never spoke on team calls. Old Kandace would have never made live videos. I would never share anything. My biggest tip for you guys, I know this wasn't a tip thing, but in business is personal growth and be vulnerable. That's literally my biggest tip, because anytime I have ever opened up and shared really, you know, what's on my mind and what's happening in my life and how I'm dealing with it and how I'm, you know, what my solution is, that's when I've had the biggest growth in my business, is literally just laying everything out there, especially the shit I don't want to share. You know, that's how people relate to us, because vulnerabilities is real. You know, that's real. And that's what people relate to, is real. They don't relate to like, I did a workout today. Cool. You know, like, cool. Right? Like they relate to the real stuff, the struggles, and the stuff we don't want to talk about. Amy says, how do you combat cravings? You're craving everything in the world. You're funny. That's a hard one, because it could just depend on the time of the month. It could be maybe you're not eating enough. Maybe you should add like a grain. Try to add veggies. Shakeology basically is the only way I do. But basically if I'm craving something and it's like French fries, and I never eat French fries, like I'll just eat French fries. You know, like I'm not going to sit here and fight this, like just have it, you know, and be done with it, whatever. But if it's like you're craving everything and you're trying to eat all this shit and justify it all week long, like, And Audrey says, if we aren't growing, neither is our business. That's one of my favorite quotes. If we're not growing, our business isn't growing. And that's so true, because this isn't a selling business. This is a relationship building business. And the way that we build relationships with people is by building trust, which is showing up every day on our social media and staying consistent in our message and what we're here for and what we have to offer as coaches, which is starting the same exact way we started with the challenge pack, like super simple, right? And being real about it. Real is relatable. How long did it take? Sarah says, how long did it take you into coaching to realize that things can get better and you can change your situation? I mean, so I have 5 minutes. I started coaching because of the opportunity. I also thought it would be cool to get in really awesome shape, but I really didn't think my body would change much, because I kind of given up on that. So when I got abs, I was like, oh my God, like my life changed. I literally didn't even have that on my radar. I was like, that'd be cool, but that's not going to happen for me. So when I started coaching, I started it specifically for the business opportunity, because I was sick of everything else I was doing. And I just kept saying, I have no plan B. I have no plan B. I will never work for someone else again. And I kind of changed my perspective. Like, all these other jobs I have now are just stepping stones helping me get to where I need to go. I'm very grateful for them, and they're helping me pay the bills, and they're helping me learn. But coaching is going to be it for me. And honestly, there was a lot of times, and even now, where I question myself and I'm like, can I do this? Because that's normal. We're human, and we do one of the hardest jobs in the world. We are literally like publicly growing and changing ourselves, and we're sharing it, and it's scary. You know, we're literally like, our lives are on blast for everyone to see, and that can be scary. But I mean, I don't know how to answer that question other than I got into this business for the opportunity to change my life. And I knew, because I saw other people's lives change, that if they could do it and they're no different than me, I can. I didn't know how. I didn't know when. I didn't know any of the details. I just knew if I stayed the course, did the shit every single day, that I could change my life and things would change for me. And I believed that. Anytime I started to doubt, I would have to be like, nope. Because this is a mindset thing. We're building super strong, like freaking minds here. Like, our minds are the foundation of which we build everything. So if we don't have a strong mind, everything else will crumble. So we literally have to retrain our brains to think, because for so long in our lives, we were told, no, 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 you can't do that. No, no, no. And why we can't do that. And now we have to like tell ourselves, yes, we can. But it's a huge, you know, like, because that little voice in the back of our head's like, no, you can't still, you know, so we're like, shut up. But it's really a lot of personal development, a lot of retraining your brain to just shut that thing up. Anytime that would start to creep in, I would just like, nope, 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 and start like going and doing something else to like change I wouldn't sit there and like obsess on it. But I'd be lying if I said it still doesn't happen, because it does. And that's normal, because this business is scary. You know, each rank, each, you know, level, you're like leveling up, not just in business, but in life and in personal development and growth and leadership. And it's constantly challenging. And that's why I love coaching so much, because it's never stagnant or boring. We're constantly challenging ourselves. We're constantly changing. The stuff that we do and the methods that we do it are always changing, which is super fun. We're always doing the base, you know, the fundamental things, the vital behaviors, but the way we do things changes. And that's fun to me. I like that. That's exciting. Sarah says, how do you keep from getting discouraged at the beginning, pushing past those? This isn't going to work. Personal development. You have to dig so hard into personal development. I would read You Are a Badass. I would read The Compound Effect. I would read Go for No. And I would hit personal development so hard. I would do way more than the bare minimum. I always did, because my mind was super like I said, I had really tiny thinking, tiny dreaming, tiny like everything, you know, scarcity mindset, never enough money, never enough this, never enough that. Like that was always me. So I had to do a lot of work, and I wanted this to happen faster for me. So hit your personal development super hard. And Bree says, you have a number one role model that you watch grow that it made you believe you could. And that was Colleen, my coach. I watched her grow. I watched her life change for that entire year that I creeped her. And it made me realize, hey, she's normal, because she shared those basic things, right? I have less than a minute, but she shared the small things that don't seem like a big deal. Like, hey, I wear shorts and I feel good, right? Like that's normal as shit. And I was like, hey, I want that. And Audrey says, I was always raised with, yeah, you can do what you want, but don't expect to make money at it. I wanted to do photography, and I was told I could never make it a career, but look at me now. Right? So yeah, I really appreciate you guys showing up and the support and the love. It's the main reason why I love this team, and I love this community, and I love all of you. And I really, really, really appreciate you. Thank you. Mwah. Happy Wednesday, Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. See you tomorrow night.